Are you like us? Tired of all the politically correct horseshit on podcasts and in the media? Need a podcast that's funny, smart, and gassy? It's not politically correct. It's just correct. This is the Carolina Underground. Throw that middle finger in the air. Raise them up. Because it's time to get loud, proud, and in your face. Generation X. Generation X. The best generation of all time meets the grit of the South. It's about everything and nothing at all. From current events to woolly boogers to movies to politics. Loud, brash, funny, and never, and I do mean never, predictable. The Carolina Underground with Mark and Mike.
Yo, 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 yo! Welcome back to the Carolina Underground, girls and guys. Coming to you live from the Replica Batcave with my partner in high crimes and misdemeanors. He floated in on the lovely silk parachute in Sparkleberry.
Silk parachute. Now, that's interesting.
Do they still make them out of silk?
I don't know. That is one thing I have no desire to do. My girlfriend talks about going parachuting, and I have no desire to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. You know?
Yeah, I don't think I would want to do that either. That could get painful really fast.
Well, a lot of people like that whole thing, but I don't see the point. I understand the whole thing and, military of parachuting people, in order to go in behind enemy lines and do mischief. But, as a recreation, in my mind, you got to have a death wish. I'm sorry. I mean, it just, I can ride a roller coaster. That's fine. I fly airplanes. That's fine. But jumping off of a mountain or jumping off of a skyscraper or jumping out of a perfectly good airplane that is not on fire.
Well, it depends on whether I've been bit by a radioactive spider or not.
Even if I had been bit by a radioactive spider, I think I'd have to pause and give it some thought. It's just not something that, again, I scuba dive too. Okay. But, and all of those things are, none of those things
Well, they're
are
inherently
natural.
dangerous.
Yeah.
Right.
But jumping out of an airplane with a napkin on your back or a tablecloth, it just doesn't, there's something about
it worked for D.B. Cooper.
Yeah, absolutely. But,
supposedly.
Well, and again, all of the stuff about, that was an intriguing, the thoughts about him being CIA and all of that stuff. And the fact that the model of airplane that he jumped out of, was used by Air America by the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
That was all interesting stuff. And that was just, it was just too slick. And the fact that they never found any remains. They did find some of the money, but they never found any bits of D.B. Cooper.
Well, no, but remember recently and outside of Raleigh, Durham, there was a family that turned over a parachute that their father had stuffed in a shed that belonged to their mother.
Mm-hmm.
That was the right material, the right age, and
Right.
he was one of the suspects for being D.B. Cooper.
Yeah. But my thought process about that, I get all of that. I agree with all of that. Why would you keep the parachute?
Well, I'm not necessarily sure he kept it or if he just left it there at his ex-wife's house and she just kind of didn't really realize what it was.
Yeah.
And because this guy he went to prison for doing pretty much the exact same thing.
Oh, now that's
And then
intriguing
he,
too.
but he got caught that time.
Hmm.
And then he ended up dying in a shootout with federal agents in Virginia Beach
Well, there you go.
after he broke out of prison.
Oh, wow. Okay. So he was a determined son of a gun.
I am still just, we last week or last episode we talked about the return of the direwolf.
Yep.
And now you've got everybody saying, "Oh, well, that ain't a direwolf. They didn't clone a direwolf. It's not a direwolf." Well,
You can't clone something that ain't
that
there.
ain't here,
Yeah.
right? And it's like I think now they said that they're trying to clone the red wolf because it's so critically endangered and all this. But when you're looking at this, and they're saying this Romulus and Remus are the two oldest ones, and they're 5 to 6 months old now,
Uh huh.
right?
Hmm.
Give or take.
Hmm.
They're 80 pounds
Hmm.
at 5 months old.
Uh huh.
That's massive.
Well, there's like, oh yeah, like Kangles and wolfhounds, and there's some big
Hmm.
dogs, and they get big in a rapid hurry. Now they go
Hmm.
through
Oh
some
well,
food
yeah.
too.
Well, and that's one thing. My whole take on this, and I know I don't want to continue beating a subject that we've already brought up, but it's cool, and I understand the desire to do it.
Hmm.
I don't really know if I kind of agree with their reasoning behind doing it, considering it's not a species of something that you could release back to the wild.
Well, no, I agree with that, and your train of thought entirely. My whole point on that is, so it's like the okay, so the South Koreans have apparently had success at changing the genetic coding or whatever. I'm not sure how they did it, honestly. I saw this was just a video clip that I saw, so I couldn't read anything and determine if
Hmm.
it's BS or not. But apparently the South Koreans have had success in taking cancer cells and turning them back into normal cells. Now that's brilliance right there. Okay. And but the problem that I have with all of the science that we are doing and have done is that we're not mature enough as a species overall not to look at that as nothing but a revenue stream, okay, and not to be able to really, I mean, again, the mantra of the um, pharmaceutical industry, and as far as I'm aware, the entire medical, uh, me, medical pharmaceutical complex, whatever you want to call it, is that every patient cured is a customer lost,
Hmm.
and I mean, that's kind of how are you familiar with the series? It's a Netflix series called Black Mirror.
Mm. Unfortunately, I don't give money to Netflix because they give a lot of money to the Obamas.
No, and neither do I, but my girlfriend has a Netflix account, and Black Mirror was one of the things that I was watching before I canceled my Netflix subscription. But they've released a new season on Black Mirror,
Hmm.
and it's very reminiscent of the old Twilight Zone. It's morality plays where they take modern day current levels of technology and they do a what if, and they
Right.
extend it out in the future. For example, they've got little tiny automated drones that pollinate flowers because all the
Hmm.
bees died. And of course, bees are the only insect species, actually, I think the only species that has a 100% symbiotic relationship with mankind. If the bees die, we die. Okay, there's
Hmm.
just will there's because there's not the other pollinators out there are not sufficient to, they're not sufficiently prolific and can't cover enough ground to pollinate the crops that we need to have pollinated. So, if they'd go, we've got to come up with some kind of a robot bee to be able to pollinate the plants so we have a food supply.
Mm.
But at any rate, I'm sorry, I kind of led myself down a rabbit hole. Regardless, the first episode that I saw of this new season really encapsulated the extremely well the depravity and of the medical industry. Um, and so that's why I flashed on that and thought about it.
Gotcha.
So I
Well,
do
and it's like
recommend the
another
series.
another reason that I am reticent to fully embrace this. And trust me, I want to pet that dog. I want one of them.
I understand.
But they're gonna mix it with the doodle, and we're gonna have dire doodles
Dire
and
doodles,
stuff like that.
or a dire wawa, or a dire
What?
weenie.
Yeah, or chew wire or some. But my thing is this: is we've spent all this money,
Yeah.
and we're talking about a company, and of course it's a private company, so their
Hmm.
numbers are private. But let's just say it's a company; it's 170 odd people,
Hmm.
and they're worth $10.2 billion.
Yep.
So it has a billionaire backing it. I don't remember which one of them it is, but we have spent all this money,
Hmm.
and this kind of goes hand in hand with what you were talking about. We've spent all this money to bring back or quasi bring back a breed that probably, if released to the wild, is going to destroy everything else
Oh, absolutely. I would think.
because it's out of sync, it's out of place.
Hmm.
But yet we are no closer to solving any diseases and like cancer
Hmm.
or something like that. And yet now we've got more coming back, like measles and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And it's like, why are we wasting our money and our efforts? It's like we're talking about, and I know we don't. We are on the process of divorcing from politics, but it's kind of like the whole scenario with we had a gangbanger from MS-13 that they deported that supposedly wasn't supposed to be deported, and they wanted to bring him back, but he had a deportation order,
Hmm.
and then they're pissed off because he got deported.
Oh yeah. Yep. Well, again, well, and that kind of dovetails into something that I was watching the other day on, it was on Prime, and it's a
Hmm.
series. I think there's five of them called Brainwashed, and they're talking about the CIA tactics that they use for brainwashing. And again, it's the point of the I don't want to spoil the series because it's very much worth watching. Now, where they lost me, okay, was when they had the fellow and they were talking about cults and how people they get sucked into cults and how the cults operate, and they had a fella from from the army talking
Hmm.
about the Army. Now, you know, here's where they lost me, okay? Because, I'm prior military. I was U.S. Navy, right? If you go into the military with any kind of illusion that you are not going to be programmed, you are deluding yourself. Okay. That is the entire purpose of boot camp. And I've stated many times that you cannot go into the military without having at least a smidge of PTSD. Can't do it.
Hmm.
Okay. It's not possible because the entire purpose of boot camp is to tear you down and rebuild you. What whoever you were when you walked in the door, they want to, the goal is to tear you down and turn you into a cog in a massive machine that is designed to kill people. Period. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that is a bad thing. It is a necessity in humanity because the only thing that holds any government together whatsoever is the application of force. And that's because there's bad people that walk this earth. There's also good people that walk this earth. But you know what? Nobody ever thinks they're the bad guy. Okay. It's always the other one that's the bad guy. And so we kind of have to come to a consensus about what good and bad is and
Well,
then operate from there
but the definition of that is relative, depending on your perspective
to
of
some
where
degree.
you're
Yeah.
coming from.
Yeah. To some degree. I mean, again, there's, now I cannot under any circumstances consider what were they call them? MAPS, minor attracted persons. No, they're pedophiles. Okay. Because if you're taking away the innocence of a child, you are, in my book, the very definition of evil. Period. Period. Children are here to be nurtured and, have I mean, and not have their lives ruined by somebody that's already grown. But, you know, and that's something I'm not going to budge from. And again, the whole transvestism thing is a mental illness, in my opinion, because it denies reality. So, blah, blah, blah. But at any rate, regardless, it, the military absolutely does use all of these same tactics that the cults and the CIA developed apparently, but that they used to, well, I doubt the CIA developed them. They probably codified them, but I feel like there have been cults since there's been people, to brainwash you into a unit that will function in wartime as required. So, now the rest of them, as far as the Moonies and the Jim Jones cults and what was the Stargate, not, what was it, the people that killed themselves when Haley's Comet
Heaven's
came out,
Gate.
Heaven's Gate, yeah, all of that stuff, yeah, there's no, that is something that's an atrocity and an abomination in my opinion. But if you're going into the military and you don't think you're going to be programmed, you're deluding yourself. So I had no patience for that guy and felt like he was just a whiny little wuss. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to. That almost turned into a soapbox, didn't it? Or did it? Was that a soapbox?
That was a
It
soapbox.
did turn
I
into a
believe it
soapbox.
was. I believe that was a soapbox.
All right, so back to your dire wolves.
Well, and I was just saying, it's just kind of, and trust me, I would love to have one of them,
Oh, I'm sure.
just for the simple fact that I like dogs and stuff like that. But it's just,
But what?
I'm reading these articles of these supposed experts, and it's like,
Mhm.
well, the fur's wrong. Well, then why is it the fur's the wrong
How do
color?
they know?
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Is like these guys have spliced the genes
Mhm,
from the DNA in,
mhm.
and you're talking about a hunter that lived predominantly in the last ice age. Do you not think that its coat would have been white? Because they have said their coats are a lot like a polar bear's coat.
Well, yeah.
That it would be where it blended in because it's so big, it's not as fast as a regular wolf.
Mhm.
And
Uh,
it's like I think we have we have let Hollywood too much define what things are. And it's like that well, and then the BBC. This is not a direwolf. The experts say. Well, then tell the experts when was the last time somebody gave a damn what an expert said? Because the experts are the ones that sit on their ass and don't do anything.
Well, so now that was an another thing I watched just because I'm fascinated by it is about flat earthers. And they did bring up an intriguing thought. Okay, so again, prior to I believe it was Copernicus. Okay, and also a couple I misspoke a couple of episodes back and referred to the Oort cloud, which is the ice out there past the universe, is the Oort cloud, and I referred
Hmm.
to it as the Kuiper belt, but that was just a brain cramp on my part. But anyway, so they were talking about prior to Copernicus, they everybody it was Copernicus that said the Earth was round, right? Wasn't he
Mm.
the first one?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
believe so. Yes.
and he was excommunicated from the church. But I mean, the common belief was that the Earth was flat, and I mean, again, some of the Native Americans believed that we were on the shell of a gigantic turtle. Okay, so there's a lot of folks that believed that the earth was flat before they believed it was round. At any rate, the point they were talking about is what the experts do is they tell you what they know based on what they've learned. And if that changes, they are reluctant to accept any new information. So, and to that I
Well,
would
then they
bring.
wouldn't be an expert anymore.
Exactly. So that and to that I would bring up the weathering on the Sphinx, which geologists looked at it and said, well, that's not weathering from sand and wind, that's weathering from water. That's water
Right.
erosion. And so
Well, and
therefore the date the
the funny
Sphinx
thing
was built
is
was wrong. Yeah. Go
they
ahead.
talk about the flat Earth,
Yeah.
um, but they tend to that particularly to the separate four corners of the earth where the angels stood primarily in the book of Revelation and all this stuff.
Right.
But they overlook the book of Isaiah and the book of Proverbs that
Hmm.
refer to the earth being a ball shape,
Hmm.
because Isaiah specifically says the circle of the earth,
Right.
and they both pretty much reference the earth being a circle.
Right.
So if everything we see, and we can use telescopes to see it, of course, according to some people, that's all Hollywood magic. It don't really exist and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But that withstanding, if everything else in the heavens is spherical
Hmm.
and we are the only thing that's flat,
Yep.
what in this picture is not like the others? And
Yep.
why would that be different? Or
Hmm.
why would this be different than the other?
Well.
If the earth was flat,
Mhm.
what that congressman from Atlanta was saying is maybe if there's too many people at the military base in Guam, that it will tip over.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and again, at the end of the day, I don't really know that it matters all that much to me because it doesn't change anything that I'm going to do. Now, I mean, we haven't mentioned bimbos in space from what was it, Blue Origins? They sent a bunch of women up in space. They were all supermodel looking women and stuff like that. Did you see about that?
Well, all I saw was Jeff Bezos biting it when he was walking around the outside of the capsule.
I missed that. But again, that's one of those that well, but
I, it's
it's
just one
okay.
of those things. Well, I mean, they're billionaire. I mean, he's a billionaire. He can put
Yeah.
up there whoever he wants to.
Oh, absolutely.
I want
Absolutely.
to
So,
ask you a question.
all right, sir.
You have seen the first Star Wars movie.
Oh gosh, yes, of course.
Okay. All right. And you know the Death Star, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Do you realize that that Death Star ain't the same Death Star that's in Return of the Jedi?
Yes, I did. Hmm.
See, I did not.
Hmm.
I thought when they showed the one in Return of the Jedi, the pieces that were missing was where it blowed up.
Well, I mean, I guess there's an argument that that could be correct at
No,
that
no,
point.
it's really it is a different one because this one's bigger. The one of the Return of the Jedi is bigger,
Hmm.
supposedly. And
Ooh,
but I didn't realize because you don't you just see the movies, right?
right.
And I will admit the original Star Wars was probably not one of my more favorite movies.
Okay.
Um, and truthfully, I'm not a big fan of The Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
I did like Return of the Jedi, and I think part of that's because I wasn't quite of the age. I was. We were young when they come out,
Well,
or younger.
I was less young than you were, but yes.
Well, right. I was younger,
Hmm.
so it's like now Return of the Jedi. My favorite one out of all of them is Revenge of the Sith,
Hmm. Okay.
and but I have soldiered through some of the god awfulest, ugliest animation I have ever seen,
Hmm.
and powered through the Bad Batch, Star Wars Rebels, and the Clone Wars. Clone
Uh-huh.
Wars, nah, but the Rebels and the Bad Batch are two of the best told serial stories in the Star Wars universe.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Animation sucks,
Hmm.
but the storylines are actually quite nice.
Well, good.
And it's interesting how they tied them together because all of that actually takes place before A New Hope.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I
So
haven't
because
I haven't watched those because again it, once Disney got their grubby mitts on it, everything just got
well,
so
these I think
difficult.
are both still Dave Filoni, so they're
Yeah.
still pretty good.
Okay. All right. I
It,
may have
uh,
to
it
give them a
but
look.
they're worth it.
Hmm. Hmm.
It took me a little bit, and the Bad Batch I think is takes place before Rebels. Rebels takes place like right before like Rogue One and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
And the Bad Batch essentially is a group of defective clones that their chips for Order 66 either didn't work or didn't kick in till later.
Hmm.
And so they were on a planet helping the Jedi and a Padawan during Order 66 when the Order 66 order came in, and this Padawan watched his master get gunned down, and they were all helping the Padawan. Well, the Padawan saw the troopers killing his master, so he didn't trust the troopers and run away. Well, that Padawan in the Bad Batch in the first episode was Caleb Doom. Okay. That name is significant because Caleb Doom became Kanan Jarrus after Order 66, who is the Jedi or former Jedi that is in Star Wars Rebels. And it's actually pretty good about how they tied it together. And they're both really good series. I mean, I was really impressed. And Star Wars, here I will say this: the first trilogy was the
Hmm.
best, was good. The second part, which was the
Yeah.
prequels, were
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
The Disney stuff sucks.
Hmm.
Here's what I would have done on the Force Awakens. You've got the best character they squandered. They had I don't the Finn character, the stormtrooper guy who left. That should have been the
Well, and
main
the thing that I had a problem with
character.
Finn about was that he was just kind of a basket case through most of it, in my opinion. And a stormtrooper, again, I mean, again, I was okay with his moment of conscience not being able to just slaughter some innocent civilian. But the whole thing of,
Hmm.
I mean, I mean, when he was trying to escape and all of that stuff, he just seemed kind of spastic and, not like somebody that's been trained as a military professional.
Well, but here, I think this is the part that we're missing. I'm reading a book now that talks about that, and it's kind of weird that they actually wrote a book
Uh-huh.
on this, but it's like the political climates of the galactic empire. And what we're thinking of as
Right.
being trained, like the clone troopers that were trained in the Clone Wars and stuff like that, did not exist. The Empire, when they got rid of the clones, it was all
Well,
conscription.
yeah.
They were going to
Even
take you
with
in
even
regardless.
with the draft and
It
with
was kind of,
conscription, you're still going to train. You're still, again, it goes back to what I was talking about the brainwashing. You're still going to indoctrinate and brainwash the I mean, you're gonna put them through boot camp, even if it's a compressed boot camp. Even during, World War I and World War II, when they were doing, conscripts and drafting. I don't know if they drafted people in World War I. Weren't they all volunteer? They might have been. At any rate, regardless, you're going to go through a boot camp process and be trained to use the weapon. They're not just going to put a blaster in your hand and say, go out there and
mhm.
shoot something. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're
Well,
going to
you've
have,
got a
that's what
point
they do,
there.
though, because
That,
stormtroopers can't get
yeah,
anything.
they're not training sharpshooters for sure. That's like, they're
But I will that, and that brings me back to the bottom line is
absolutely.
it all
And
comes
therein
back to
lies
the
my
ability
problem
to
with
tell a story.
Disney on nearly everything is that, especially anything that they do that's original, they can't stick to their own canon and their own narrative. And so they're constantly doing stuff. If you're actually paying attention in almost every Disney thing that you watch that's been done since the originals, you'll be watching it and you'll go, well, wait a minute. Wasn't it supposed
Hmm.
to be that if you did this and this and this, that that this is what would happen. This is supposed to lead to this, and that is supposed to lead to that. And you know, but they skip around and insert new things into the canon while they're doing the same movie, and that
Hmm.
frustrates me because I pay attention.
Well, or they just go back and it's like the whole story of Ray. And I mean, I hate to bash Disney about Star Wars, but the whole story of Ray, part of the original trilogy that endeared Luke to audiences
Yeah,
was he trained. I mean, it wasn't
absolutely.
just,
Yeah,
and she just seems to just grab the force and just throttle it and then go from there. And
right,
it's hard for me to just suspend disbelief
right.
and think that okay, she was the last
She didn't.
and best thing. I mean, and
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
it's
She
just
she
garbage. It's
didn't earn
D.
it. It was just a
It's just
gift
DEI,
that she
and
was
it's just
given.
garbage.
Yeah, right.
And it says like they have all these other
Yeah,
great stories, and like they have all. It's just like Batman and Superman. They have all
right.
these great stories in the comics. I mean, fantastic stories, and they want to reinvent the wheel.
No,
People don't want to see this garbage they're putting out. If you make a movie and just have it with Yoda going around beating the hell out of people with a damn
right.
lightsaber, it'll have $1 billion
Yep,
box office because that's what people want to see. They don't go to Star Wars to see some. And if you look at it, they're
right.
essentially telling the
Yeah,
same story: an orphan on a desert
yeah.
planet.
It's
It's the same
it's
story.
Luke
They didn't learn
Skywalker in
anything,
drag.
and not even good drag because they don't even have big
Well,
titties.
there you go.
Damn. At least bring in Darth Talon or something like that. I mean, she might be a Twi'lek with them things on her head, but damn, she had some big bazooms.
I'm gonna let that sit. I understand. I don't think that there's a
Well,
man on the
I'm
planet
sorry.
that
I
doesn't,
like titties.
but nonetheless,
I have the force. I can make them jump.
Oh my goodness! Like I said, that just made me think of The Rock in what was it? He was in oh my goodness, Mysterious Island, or what was it? Or it wasn't? Was it Journey? No, it wasn't Journey to the Center of the Earth. And he was telling he needed to do the peck pop of love. I'm sorry.
You know,
Oh, I'm
he
sorry to hear that.
he is not one of my
I mean,
favorite
I don't
people.
know. I like what I've seen him in. But go ahead.
Well, well, I mean, well, yeah, well, no, some of the movies I like, but I mean, it's after the tone deafness of him and Oprah with Maui when Maui was burning and all that stuff. It just kind of makes
I
me
don't know
think that
about.
maybe you
I
just
missed
drunk
that.
your own
I'm
Kool-Aid
sorry
a
to
little
hear
bit
that.
too long.
I'm sorry to hear that he spazzed out.
The one that I really like, and I'm not sure exactly what's going on because hadn't really followed it because I don't know who
Mhm.
this YouTuber fella is, but is Shaq. I think Shaq's a great guy. Shaq does a lot of good, but evidently this YouTuber guy on video was like knocking stuff out of Shaq's hand and grabbing the back of his head, and Shaq ended up getting
Hmm.
kicked out of the UFC fight because of it. And it's like I don't understand. I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
if it's a work or a shoot. I don't either, but I
Well,
know that according
I don't know
supposedly
about
Shaq
that
sent a
either. I
lawsuit
don't
to
know
him.
what The Rock did that
So,
when Maui was burning, and I don't know.
well, that
Uh,
was when him and Oprah had bought up all this land, and then
oh
wanted to
wow,
do a
wow, that's
GoFundMe to help the people whose
well, you know,
houses
he
burnt down.
is from Hawaii, so I don't know. I mean, I have less. I mean, I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but I don't know anything about this thing with Shaq either.
Well, I lost all respect for him because he
Okay,
played at the University
I
of
can
Miami.
understand your feelings there as well.
And that's a school where the slobbering children go.
Hmm. Well,
There is a worse one.
welcome to
At least he
FSU,
didn't
where
go
the
to Florida
women are
State.
women and the men are too.
Hey, well, when Bobby Bowden was there, they had
Yeah.
that guy that was running the
Oh yeah.
football. He couldn't stay out of jail, but they signed him. And they wanted to know. They said, "Well, how did
Hmm.
you get it to where he won't get in trouble?" He said, "Well, we've got a strict rule. When we sign a football player at the Florida State University, we give them their own 7-Eleven. They can rob it anytime they want to.
All right. And
And we
why
should be
is that?
popping Paul Roger corks.
Well,
Well, our
you
alma
talking about
mater
in
are the national
basketball? See, I never
champions.
followed. I never followed basketball because, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Well, to
That
me,
was a
again,
lesser
it's like
sport of
if you
inferior
had
people.
normal sized human beings that played the game, but nobody. I mean, you can't. You got to be over 6'5" to play. You know.
Well, now I think what they should do Well, I think what they should do is incorporate basketball and football and make it tackle on that hard floor
Yeah,
without any pads. Then it'll
that
get
would give
interesting.
you a very short window that you could play that game. All right.
We
Really?
got a comment on one of our episodes
And
the
it
other
wasn't
day.
shut the hell up?
We did.
I'm just curious. Tell me,
Well, no, I I don't know if it was
what did they
about
say?
us or they were
Can you repeat it?
self-reflecting and self-projecting. Morons.
Fair enough.
Hey, we don't know who's the bigger morons, us sitting here talking or you sitting there listening. But I will say this: it was on a platform that don't nobody use. So Evidently, you're the
and
moron. And I would put out your username, but it looked retarded and stupid, and I ain't going to repeat it. And I don't think you're supposed to say them words anymore, but that boy was a
well,
moron. I'm sorry.
no, that's perfectly fine.
Please keep your comments coming.
I mean, again, it's worth exactly what he paid for it. No, I mean,
Probably worth more than what they pay for it. I'm valuable.
what's that?
Because I think I told you last week,
Yes, that
if
you
I was a
said.
dinosaur, I'd
I
be a
recall that. I
gorgeosaurus.
don't know. I don't know that I've gone to enough therapy to get over that yet.
You shouldn't have to go to therapy. I'm the
Oh,
smart one. So, but that, the funny
I
thing
don't know that
is,
you did.
I told you about my nephew, didn't I?
All
I
right.
don't know whether I did or not. He's of a certain age.
Not
And
hard
he
to
has
do these days,
discovered
but go ahead.
pornography. No, well, my sister says, "Well, you have a talk with him." And I was like, "Well, what do you want me to talk to him about? The best porn sites? I mean, I can give him some pointers there. I got some good ones." And she said no, and so I said, "Just talk to him." And I said, "Okay." So I go to him, and
Yeah.
I sit him down, and I say, "Little nephew," and he ain't little boy. He's a big old boy. I mean,
Him a heifer, huh?
he'd dress out a couple
Yep.
100 pounds. I mean, he ain't a little fella. Him a big old heifer. And I say, "Little nephew, if you do that too much, you'll go blind." And he looked at me and he
There
said,
you
"Don't
go. Well,
worry." He
now,
says, "I
all
done
right.
thought about that. I'm just going to stop when I need glasses." My
Well,
sister didn't
that's the
enjoy
thing.
that, but
Again,
I did.
we talking about having to earn it. I mean, in back in the day, it was not easy to come across porn. I mean, you had to work at it. Now all you got to do is turn on your cell
No,
phone. But
that's right. Really? I've missed that page. Well, boys and girls, we're running up on the time mark for today. We got new things coming. Just bear with us. We're going to show y'all how smart a couple of University of Florida graduates can be. We got some good things coming. And our entire mission so far in season 3 is to leave you with some positive information to help you make better choices in your life.
all right,
And today, this episode ain't going to be any different.
I'm waiting to hear it. You got me on the edge of my seat, boss.
All right,
Okay.
here we go. This is words of wisdom. Don't put your fingers anywhere you wouldn't put your wiener. And with that, that's the snout to the curly tail and all that's in between in a galaxy far, far away.
Have
And
a
I can
good
write
night.
better stories than Disney can. And we gone.
All right, you crazy bunch of motherfuck. Wait, can we say mother? Anyway, you've been listening to the Carolina Underground. It isn't politically correct, it's just correct. Our motto is, if you can't go balls deep, don't go at all. Actually, that's not our motto, and I'm sorry, I don't even know what that meant. All right, we gotta go. We hope you enjoyed the show. And if you didn't, we hope it really pissed you off. Follow us on Twitter at Carolina UNDGRND Underground, get it? Or drop us an email at Carolina UNDGRND, get it? At northstate.net. We want to hear from you. Y'all be cool. See you next time on Carolina Underground.